Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Always in Season podcast, episode number 5. I'm Zach here with Susanna, and this week we're going to take a look at some of the rookie QBs and what they're going to look like, as well as some of the current starters.
First we'll do a little weekly news recap though. First off, the NFL schedule release will be on May 15th. I am really looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big matchups. We'll get to see the primetime matchups. A lot of the younger stars. I think Love and Stroud are set to go at it. Hopefully, that's a primetime game.
For sure, and we'll get to see, Christmas Day matchups, Thanksgiving, rookie debuts, all of that. And we'll break down that on another podcast in a few weeks. Tress Way, punter for the Commanders, gave Jaden Daniels, new quarterback, the number 5. That's pretty nice of him.
Yeah, I mean, usually it was a whole different. It was different than what normally was. Normally they just pay them and it's all that. But it's nice to see that Jaden Daniels essentially the future of their franchise. They're kind of allowing him to feel more comfortable and grow.
Yeah, and you should check out, if you haven't yet, the Commanders social media. They did a whole review. It was fun. All right, this one was a controversial thing that was brought up. Austin Rivers, who's an NBA player, he was saying that he believes he can name 30 guys, at least, who could make it in the NFL. And that's been a big debate. Yeah. What are your feelings on that statement?
So this, as someone who I would say I follow the NBA more than the NFL, just because the season's longer, he's completely wrong. Physically, there's a handful that, could match up to NFL players, but as far as play the game, there's not any. And James Jones, he went on a rant and just absolutely
tore him to shreds.
Yeah, he did. Austin Rivers, his dad is Doc Rivers, and I'm not saying that's why he's in the league, but there's a good reason of why he got drafted so high.
Yeah, James Jones did make the statement that Austin Rivers barely made it in the NBA. So, I think a lot of people talk about LeBron this or even Anthony Edwards, these bigger guys. But it is so different.
Yeah.
You're not just, as James Jones even said, you're not just running and catching the ball. The physicality of the game, and I'm not discrediting the athleticism of NBA players, but it is a completely different ball game. Yeah. So Austin Rivers' statement was really irrational.
Yeah, it's just tough to, I would say it's tough to compare the two sports. One's just so much more physical, and both sports have gotten safer, I guess you could say. The NFL, 15 years ago was a completely different sport, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think Rivers 30 is just, I can't even comprehend that many.
Yeah. Next up, Isaiah Likely, a Baltimore Raven. He said that Lamar Jackson has lost over 20 pounds this offseason, and he said, if you think he was fast before, just watch out. I think that's fun. He does look kind of unrecognizable. He looks like a completely different person. Lamar faster is a scary thought for the league.
Yeah, obviously you have Derrick Henry back there too. So it's kind of another lineman essentially at times. But 20 pounds, he was already arguably the most athletic quarterback in the league, and losing 20 pounds and just becoming that much better we'll see what has in store with him.
He's coming off an MVP.
Yeah, he is, and obviously a disappointing season for the Ravens, but he's looking to get to the top. MVP is one thing, but Super Bowl is a whole different ballgame.
And when he got drafted in 2018, he said they're gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. He is so motivated to get Baltimore.
Yeah, I remember watching that draft and watching him fall, and I'm like, oh boy. And then he fell to the Ravens, and I'm like, they got a good one.
Yeah.
And,
it's a perfect situation. I really hope they can get it done in the next couple of years. The Rams traded wide receiver Ben Skowronek to the Texans. It was more of a under the radar kind of deal, but Texans adding another weapon.
Yeah, I think Texans again can never have too many weapons, but you have Diggs there, and this is, like you said, another kind of under the radar move. But I don't think he'll get many targets, but again, we'll see.
Yeah, it's always good to have depth in the wide receiver room. There was a video that surfaced of Matthew Stafford, who's one of the older quarterbacks in the league, throwing 100 yards. Honestly, it was over 100 yards. He's always been one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league, but that was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, I think we see these guys throwing 30, 40, 50 yards in a game. It's a game is way different. If you have time to, you have no pressure, I guess you could say. Some of these guys, we know they can throw that far if they needed to.
Yeah.
We've seen Rodgers before, and even guys like Mahomes too, that just off platform can just falling away. They can throw it 60 yards away. Yeah. So when you have a platform and enough time, didn't really show off what they have.
Yeah. I do think it's impressive. Like Stafford has been always known as like one of the toughest guys in the league, and it's hard. It's weird because I don't know. Because the Super Bowl came so late in his career,
Yeah.
it's like he didn't peak late in his career, but like accomplish as much as he did. But I think it's
Yeah.
really cool, like how he's still able to
Yeah.
be that strong and whatever
Yeah.
this late in his career. There was a really cool story. Lions Ennis Regenstraw, he had wrote a letter to his teacher back in fourth grade, talking about how he was going to talk about that teacher when he made it to the NFL, and it was this really sweet letter. One of those things we all did those in school, like what I want to be when I grow
Right.
up and everything. And it was when he was transitioning from out of that fourth grade classroom, and he was talking about how he was his favorite teacher, and he didn't he didn't want to leave, and it was just really sweet because he made it to the NFL, and there was a picture of him and his teacher, and I don't know, I just those kind of stories are what make the NFL so great.
Yeah, I mean, you see, you see it in a lot of the leagues too. You
Mm-hmm.
you make it so far. I mean, obviously, when you're kids, you have all these big dreams, but again, to make it to the league is a whole different ballgame, and that he remembered his teacher, and his teacher remembered him. So, yeah, again, another a heartwarming story, and just another reason, just sports in general are so
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and like you hear about coaches or parents or grandparents that of course they talk about, but the teacher, that's like a whole nother
Yeah.
level. That's so sweet. This was a bigger one throughout the week. Tyler Boyd signed with the Titans, 1 year, 4.5 million. I mean, the Titans are they're stacking up this offseason.
Yeah, I think the Titans. I mean, they kind of are, I'd say, middle of the road, kind of, but they could turn the corner. But again, their division is kind of tough. But a small little signing could end up being good for them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think Tyler Boyd's a really good addition, and they're trying to give Will Levis options,
Hmm.
and yeah, they're not just sitting there doing nothing.
Right.
They're trying. Tom Brady roast happened this past week. That was a lot of
Yeah,
things.
controversial. I mean,
Controversial. Yeah,
I mean,
Giselle was not
it
happy.
was. Yeah, she was not. But I mean, it was bold of Netflix to do this live.
It
It
was okay. Disclaimer: it was very. If you haven't watched it, it was very inappropriate.
Yeah.
But there were some funny jokes in
Yeah.
there that were football related.
Yeah.
It was a lot of strong personalities in
Yeah.
one room with microphones.
Yeah.
I think it's cool though how many people showed up.
Yeah.
Like, and Bill Belichick. I like being able to see this side of him, of
Mhm.
him not being just this like emotionless coach.
Yeah.
Just
I think Bill, just in general, now that he's away from the game as far as the coach goes, it's. I mean, you saw him in the draft too on the Pat McAfee show. It's a whole different Bill Belichick, and it's. Like you said, I love seeing this Bill,
yeah.
and just in general, the roast was. It was. I don't know. I thought it was good. Again, there were a lot of.
Out of pocket.
Yeah, I guess you could say that,
Yeah.
but Brady has done a lot in his career. Negative and positive, and they kind of focused on the negative, which was good.
Yeah, and it wasn't just roasting Tom Brady. I mean, they roasted everyone. They roasted Gronk a lot. They roasted Bill Belichick. They roasted Peyton Manning. Like it was a lot, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
Like in the end, it was.
Yeah, it's all in good fun, and
Yeah.
and they props to Brady for not taking anything too seriously.
Yeah, for sure. So last week we talked about how Jeremiah Trotter Jr. got drafted by the Eagles just like his pops, which is really special. And then news broke this week that he will wear the same number 54, that his father wore, which I think is really sweet.
Yeah, it's cool that they kept, I wouldn't say kept the number for him, but they allowed him to have his dad's number, and just another way to feel, I guess, fill his dad's shoes, I guess. But again, he wants to do his own thing in the NFL.
Yeah, now his family doesn't need to buy any more jerseys because
Right.
they already have it. It's all set. And then lastly, Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell will be competing for the starting job for the Raiders.
Yeah, Gardner last year as a backup for the Colts. I mean, once Richardson went down, he did very well, and they'll compete for the job. I wouldn't be shocked if either of them start. But I think Aiden kind of has a little bit of an edge right now. But if Gardner has a great camp, he'll be a big one starter.
Yeah, and Aiden has the edge obviously because he was there. He knows these guys and has that chemistry. But that one will be one of the more intriguing situations, especially in the offseason, because we don't know who's going to start, and I'm excited to see that competition. So next we're going to move into our rookie quarterback predictions, kind of break down what teams they're on and the situation and when we think they're going to start and how they will pan out for 2024 season.
All right, as we all know, there were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and I would say the majority of them are going to start this year. I think at some point they'll be starting. But first, let's start with number one, Caleb. The situation is it was one that we expected for a while. He has to show something. I mean, he's going to. I mean, every rookie is going to struggle at some point, but he needs to show flashes of why he was number one.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams this season is going to be a complete roller coaster. You're going to see the plays where it's like, this is why he was the number one overall pick. He is, a game changer, a playmaker, like all of that. And then you're also going to see wow, his mechanics are poor. He is reckless. He is young. It would have been a lot better maybe if they had Fields and Caleb got to sit. Like, you're going to see all sides of Caleb Williams. And I think here is where the Bears keep making the mistake that they can't make again. They don't let the quarterback make the mistakes and stick with them. Same with the coach.
Yeah.
They keep going on the cycle, which we've talked about, of you're not doing well, okay, we're going to fire you. You're still not doing well as a quarterback, okay, we're going to, replace you. And they keep going back and forth. They're building the team, but then it's a new leader every time, and it just isn't working. They need to stick with Matt Eberflus. They need to stick with Caleb Williams, keep building their team, give them time to develop. That's my take.
Yeah, I don't think Caleb had a lot of, I wouldn't say problems. He didn't face a lot of adversity in college, and I think he's going to. And it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. I think, again, we talked about his ego, and I think he needs to keep that in check first and foremost. Because if he say he has a great week one and he's on top of the world, he's going to get, it's going to be a rude awakening for him when he has a bad game. But I think, like you said, the Bears just it's this endless cycle. And again, if they do end up firing Eberflus in a year or two, it's the beginning of another cycle.
Yeah.
But fans are impatient there in Chicago. They're sick of getting beat by the Packers and just everybody in that division essentially, and just not being able to get they haven't been to the playoffs since the Eagles, the double twink.
Yeah.
So it's just the fans are impatient, and I think the ownership gets impatient too, and they're just so quick to move on. And I mean, we've seen that Fields was talented, but Caleb is like this generational talent that if they mess up this one, where do they go from here?
Yeah, and I think the point you made about keeping his ego in check is important, and that's not a knock on Caleb, but Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud both had really unbelievable seasons, especially later in the year.
Yeah.
And a huge thing that was talked about both of them was how even-keeled they are.
Yep.
How they never get too high, never get too low. And you can see that. You can hear that in their interviews. You can see it on the field. They're not being dramatic, And I think Caleb, obviously he can be even-keeled, but will he? Because there is, that, like, when Baker Mayfield came into the league, that was a lot of people's knock on him, where it was like he let his emotions get the best of him sometimes, which football is like an intense, high emotional game. But when you're the leader of the team, you got to keep that in check, especially like you said. It's one thing for you to lose, and you have to keep yourself in check so that you're ready to go win and like kind of flush it. But when you win, don't get too high.
I think you saw it like with Love. I mean, we saw it firsthand. He kind of hit those struggles, like that Saints, not the Saints team, the Falcons game, rather. It's just, he hit those tough games and was just kind of like, you could see he was like upset, obviously, but he didn't let it get to him.
Him and the team.
And the team, that's the big thing too. The guys rallied around him. And then later on, Love was making these, I can't get over that throw against Dallas, where he is so calm, and it basically seemed like he had been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And I think Caleb needs to be a leader as well. I think he can't just be like, oh, me. It has to be an us situation. I mean, you saw that with Stroud too. What they did in Houston last year doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I do think the Bears are being, like, the other players are being welcomed to Caleb, and I think they're ready to rally around the guy, but he also needs to build that trust and give them a reason to rally around him.
Yeah.
Next up, Jaden Daniels. You have.
Um, the Commanders as a team just haven't had success, and I think this is the beginning of something new. He's inheriting a lot of problems. I would say just not problems, just whether as like the Commanders just as a team again they haven't been good, so not a lot of expectations, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. I think they're finally at a place though where they're starting fresh, where
Yeah.
it's like completely new everything, and they're kind of past all the like owner GM kind of drama. They're
Yeah.
past the name changing drama. Um, they have their guy now, and they're ready to go build. And they've been building, the last couple of years, and I think they're at a good spot where I'm not saying that they're gonna go win a bunch of games, make the playoffs, go on a run, but I think they're going to look a lot more together. A lot more professional,
Yeah.
honestly, and that even if they only win 3 or 4 games, I think they're
Mm.
going to be in a lot of games, and that will be important. And I think Jaden's the kind of rookie who he's going to be a good leader out there.
Yeah.
I think he will stay even keeled. I think that even if the team, like I said, doesn't win a bunch of games, I think we will see that Jaden is the guy.
Yeah, I think Jaden's a guy we were both very high on, and I think he's a high character guy, and I think a guy that the Commanders are lucky to have in their locker room and the face of their franchise. He's gonna. I think it might take him a little bit. It's gonna be a little rough, just it always is for rookies.
And we'll get to break that down more with the schedule.
Right.
So I'm excited to see that.
To see what kind of matchups he has, but I think like you said, I don't think they'll win a ton of games.
Yeah.
But he'll show signs. I think that they made the right pick.
But the pressure's on now that he got his number. He
Yeah.
he better go earn it.
All right. Next up, we have Drake May. We have mixed opinions on Drake May.
Yeah, but I think we have the same take on how the season.
Yeah. I don't think he should start right away. I don't think he will start right away. But I think we talked about it that they're past the Brady and the Belichick. It's a fresh start, and Drake is a new face, and I think by the end of the season he'll be starting, and he'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, and I think it helps that they don't have Mac Jones in the building either.
Mhm.
I think it's good that it's not this like, oh, who's the starter? Like, I think everyone knows Drake May is the future of the franchise, or that's what their goal is, but they don't have expectations to go and win their division, to go
Right.
make the playoffs, so he does not have to start. They can start, the veteran quarterback, and let Drake May develop. I would not be surprised if he does start a few games this season towards the end of the season, especially if they are, if they have 3 or 4 wins and they have nothing to play for. Let Drake May see what he's got, see how he's doing. And I think that'll be good for his career, good for his development. And I am excited to see how he does with the Patriots, I really am.
I think Dan Orlovsky talked about it. He was very adamant to not start Drake.
Yeah.
Because he's like, a lot of these young guys, they get thrown in this situation, they get flustered,
And it's the worst thing.
their confidence is gone, and I wouldn't say you've ruined them, but you've knocked them off their pedestal a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think if, like you said, I think Drake, see how the season goes without Drake, and when they feel comfortable, they'll throw him in there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Jordan Love, the whole story, is such a good example where I think partially it was because of how Rodgers is, and also the Rodgers Favre thing, that the Love storyline was so talked about. But, I mean, Jordan Love had not played a snap at all. Like, he just got drafted, and everyone said he's a bust.
Yeah.
So, the pressure that these quarterbacks come into is insane. And so, Jordan had to prove doubters wrong before he even gave them a reason to doubt, you know? So Drake May, he's definitely one of those situations where don't do the worst thing for his career and throw him in there right away, Help him out, let him develop, then go.
And then you saw with Love, I think he had that one game 2 years ago against the Chiefs where he struggled. Like, he did not do well. But again, it's
I have
the
mixed
Chiefs.
feelings about that game.
But again, it's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah.
And I think it was one that I don't think ownership or anybody took anything major, panic, but we didn't make the wrong pick. Obviously, they didn't,
And it was spur of the moment because Rodgers just got.
It was a tough situation to get thrown into, and
but then he got thrown into the Eagles game.
And then he
another
was
year,
okay, a little
and
bit.
He looked
better,
good.
And then I think that was the moment where they're like, okay, we can move on from Rodgers. We can start this new era.
Yeah. Mark Murphy, the president, talked about that at the owners' meeting. That's when they were like, oh, all right. He's it, All right, Michael Penix Jr.
He's not gonna start. Let's like unless Kirk is hurt. But I think he needs to sit behind Kirk, learn from Kirk, be patient because I think his time will come. But I think unless Kirk is hurt, he's not gonna see the Shield this year.
This is going to be a storyline the whole season just based on how the Falcons set themselves up for drama.
Yeah, they
like
did. Yeah,
they paid Kirk a boatload of money, said you're our guy, Kirk wanted to be
yeah,
here, everything was all flowers and sunshine, and then they're like, yep, we're drafting a rookie. Hi.
yeah.
Um I think, like you said, I don't think Michael's not gonna start, okay? Kirk is the starter. And I think Kirk will be the starter for the entire season. Even if Kirk struggles a little bit or the team struggles early, I don't think they're going to go
No.
rush to replace him, especially because when you pay a guy, you have to, let him
Yeah.
pan out. But if Kirk gets hurt, and I don't mean season ending, I mean like he's out for 2 weeks, Michael goes in there and he shines, this Falcons organization is going to be in a tough situation.
Yeah.
Like, oh shoot, he's doing well, he looks like it. Should we just go with it and eat the money that we paid Kirk, or should we let Kirk go back in like that?
Yeah.
I kind of hope that happens because I want to see how.
And it would be interesting to see that, like you said, if Kirk gets hurt and Penix is there for a few games, and they decide to go with Kirk, and there's other teams that are like, hey, they got something there.
Yeah.
Let's jump on it. It's the Raiders who, they're kind of in this middle of the road as far as their quarterback goes. Yeah. But I think, like you said, they paid $100 million to Kirk. They're going to play him if he's healthy, I think.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Penix he just needs to sit, learn, be ready, be patient, and his time will come eventually.
I think it's a great situation for Penix. I really do. And honestly, I hope Kirk stays healthy, and I hope Kirk can play a year or two there, and then Penix can go and have his time to shine. But I'm so excited for. A lot of people don't like preseason. I love it. I love seeing these quarterbacks go and get a chance. Even if you can say it's not real football, they're not playing the starters. I don't care. I cannot wait to see what they have to offer.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
All right, JJ.
JJ, another guy that I don't think he'll start right away. Sam Darnold's there. There's low expectations with the Vikings this year. They're past Kirk. There's some JJ questions. Justin Jefferson, my fault. Justin Jefferson, not JJ McCarthy.
The other JJ.
So I think, I don't think he'll start right away, but I think midseason they'll throw him in there, and if he's starting by the end of the year, I won't be shocked.
I do think the Vikings kind of have a decent situation because, like you said, they don't have the expectations. I think they kind of accepted the fact that this is a rebuilding year, or I don't want to say tanking because I don't think they're saying that they're tanking, but this is kind of weird where it's like, all right, we're just gonna see what we have, what we have in Darnold, see what we have in JJ, go from there, see what happens with Justin Jefferson, like all of that. I definitely think it'll be better if Sam Darnold starts. Even if JJ looks better in camp, I still think they should start Darnold because in the end, the games in camp is a whole different ballgame. And I think JJ is he's a student of the game, is what we've heard out of college. Like, he's a hard worker. He's gonna be ready to be the starter going into every game, but we hope that he doesn't have to start until at least week 8. Like, I don't think it should be earlier than halfway through the season.
Yeah, JJ, I mean, he's a system quarterback, but he had a great system in Michigan. And again, like you said, he's a winner. He's going to do his prep work, and I think having him sit and just kind of take in all of the NFL and what it is, I think it's going to benefit him a lot. And then a guy like Darnold, who's been in the league for a little while, seeing how he manages it is going to help him. But I think he could start by the end of the year.
Yeah. Now, Aaron Jones, new running back in town for the Vikings, I think that's going to be great for JJ to have in his career because Aaron Jones went through a similar thing with Jordan Love, like where he helped him kind of get acclimated to the team. He is one of the best leaders in the league, and I think he will help keep things calm there no matter what's going on. He's going to help keep things calm, and I think he'll put, his arm around JJ and be like, I got you. Like, just keep working, keep building, you'll get your time. Even with Darnold, like, just stay even keeled, and that'll be really good. When you have somebody like that veteran presence in the locker room, a star, that's so helpful for these young quarterbacks. All right, last but not least, Bo Nix. This is such an interesting one.
Yeah, the Broncos they had the Russell Wilson trial, I guess you could say, the 1 year of paying him a lot of money, and then he went on. He could start. I think you said earlier, you think Sean Payton's pushing to start him.
Well, because the Russell Wilson thing because it was like 2 years of Russell, just 1 year with Russ and Peyton together, and Sean Payton and Russ kind of butt heads, and so now Sean Payton got his guy, and I do think that Sean Payton just wants to like let's start like I think he's impatient. That's what I think of Sean Payton. I think he's impatient to he wants to go win, like obviously, and they have set him, so like they can do kind of like we're talking about with Drake May or JJ, like they can do the kind of thing where all right, we have a guy, he's not a star, he's not going to be our future, but we'll start him so that the rookie gets time to develop. But I don't even think Sean Payton wants to go down that road. I really think he's like, whether he goes in there and he looks completely unprepared, or he goes in there and he looks like a star, no matter what, we're riding this out with Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix, having the experience he had in college helps a lot. I mean, he had a lot of years under his belt. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I feel like if he starts, I won't think it would be the worst thing, but I don't think he should.
The Broncos don't have high expectations this year, so that helps. But I don't know. I think Sean Payton is good for a young quarterback. I do think that'll really help. And again, it's his guy. He's going to be behind him. He'll be in his corner. And I think Bo Nix is mature enough where, like kind of like we talked about earlier, like I think he would stay pretty level-headed. And I don't know. I don't know. There's something about this where I just think, just throw him in there, and we're going to ride it out. It'll be a complete roller coaster, but in the end, it might pan out.
All right, so now that we did the rookie QBs, we're going to just kind of talk about the current QB situation, kind of the guys that are on the hot seat, and their futures, I guess, with their teams.
Yeah.
All right, now that we've taken a look at the rookie QBs, we're going to just kind of look at some of the current, starters that we expect, and kind of their hot seat, and what we think could happen to them midseason or in the future.
Yeah. So who do you have first off?
This was kind of like, I mean, I had Jacoby Brissett, but again, this is kind of one where it's like he's the starter, but again, he's going to move on. If they move on from Drake May, I won't be shocked. So again, this is just kind of, I guess, their plan. But still someone I think midseason will get replaced.
Yeah, and Brissett, he's been in the league for a while. I think he kind of knows that this is the situation. I think he knew that when, going into the draft that he's not their guy for long term, But I think Brissett's a good kind of guy to sit behind and, learn from. Yeah. So it'll be good for Drake.
Next I had Sam Darnold in Minnesota. I think we just talked about the last segment that I think he'll start having JJ sit behind him, watch him, learn from him. I think it's going to be good, but I think JJ will start midseason, and Sam Darnold we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. It's another situation where I think this was kind of the Vikings' plan. They knew that Darnold wasn't their guy, but they needed to have a quarterback that they could, go in there and kind of be the placeholder until they believe the rookie's ready. And again, this is where the business side kind of sucks for some of these guys because everyone knows that the Vikings want to start JJ eventually. Yeah. They don't want to have Darnold. So it's kind of hard. They know that they're just the placeholders, but that's part of the business.
Next, I had Aiden O'Connell getting replaced by Gardner Minshew, but this is either or. I guess you could say like he's talks about they're gonna fight for the job. I think they'll flip flop back and forth. I don't think they're gonna for 17 games. I don't think there's gonna be one quarterback.
Yeah. Personally. Yeah, I could see them going back and forth. I do think that Aiden will just get to start just because, like we talked about earlier, he has slight chemistry edge, with these guys. But I think Gardner's the better overall quarterback. But I don't know. Maybe Aiden will go and try to prove things. Like it'll be fun to see. But it could be the kind of thing where for the first 3 weeks, Aiden's the starter, and then the next 2, Gardner, and then they put in Aiden again. Like they might go back and forth, and it might be messy, but it could be fun. Whatever wins them games.
Yeah. Daniel Jones, I think he could get moved. There's a lot of money tied up with Daniel Jones, but I think last year he got hurt, and they're just kind of. I mean, just the team as a general was just a disaster.
Do you think he's going to get benched this season, or do you think he'll move after the season?
I think he could get benched mid-season, and then they continue and just move on from him.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to get a little impatient with him.
Yeah, but get someone to believe in you. Like the Giants have been believing in Daniel Jones. I mean, come on. Like they have been sticking with him. And I liked Daniel Jones and the Giants fit when he first got drafted. But the Giants did not do a good enough job building around him for the first 2 years.
And then
the
they threw a
injuries.
bunch of money at him.
And then they threw a bunch of money at him as if he was good enough to be like their savior. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Giants really kind of look ridiculous right now. Especially now that, like, we talked about last week, I believe, where everyone else in their division crushed the draft and they didn't.
Yeah.
So the Daniel Jones thing, I think the best thing for his career would be to go get a fresh start somewhere else. And yeah, I could see him getting benched mid-season.
Yeah. Next up, I had Derek Carr. If he has a slip up, I think he could get Taysom Hill's there. I think you talked about it briefly. Spencer's there.
Spencer Rattler is there, and Taysom Hill. I mean, yeah, he plays quarterback sometimes, but he plays every position. And I think Taysom doesn't necessarily want to go be the quarterback. I think he likes being able to be the Swiss Army knife. And Taysom Hill is not their future. Spencer Rattler might be their future.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they drafted him. And Derek Carr, I mean, he's a good guy. Like he's one of the better leaders in the league, and I think he could play well. But also, I think the Saints are in a position where they've been kind of in this like we're average, We're
yeah. I wouldn't call it like a post Drew Brees hangover because it's been so long since Brees has been there. But again, like you said, they're just kind of treading water and trying to figure it out, and it just I don't know.
And Dennis Allen might be moved as a head coach, after the season. Like if they have another average season, they might be like, all right, you know what, Derek, thank you. We're going to move you. They might try to trade him after the season, or, we'll see what happens there. We're going to get a new coach, and we're going to build around Spencer. Like, they really might just do that kind of thing, depending on how the season goes. What will be really interesting, though, is, like, if Derek goes and plays great, like, if he goes and plays great, like, are they going to then give him another contract? Like, are they because he's also getting towards the end of his career. So, I don't know. It'll be fun to watch out.
The last one was a little interesting. I think there's a chance Russell Wilson, Fields is there in Pittsburgh. I think Fields was a starter. He has the experience. I don't think they're gonna be hesitant. I don't think that Russ is going to have a bad year compared to what happened in Denver. And that wasn't his fault, but I'm saying everything that happened in Denver, it was not his fault. It was their fault. Denver's fault. But I think if Russ doesn't, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be slow to maybe see what Fields has because they have Fields is due for a contract, and having him there was just kind of like I don't really understand it because Russ is there, but I don't think it's out of the.
Yeah, you can never have too many good quarterbacks. Even though we make a lot of drama about who's gonna be the starter and people's feelings, but in the end, you want to win. So the more good quarterbacks you have, the better. Russell Wilson, I don't care what anybody says. Russell Wilson had a pretty darn good season with the Broncos. Sean Payton just did not want to play him.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous that they benched him. I think Russ has a chip on his shoulder, and I think Mike Tomlin is ready to go win with Russ. I think the Steelers are behind him. I think the players are behind him. And I think Justin is honestly happy to be the backup for him.
I think he is too, but again, I think it's a situation where I don't know. It wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me.
Fields
either.
is ready and he's shown he can play.
Yeah.
But I do think Russ will, barring anything drastic.
Yeah.
He'll start all games.
Yeah, and the thing for Justin, since he is out of contract, he might get some snaps. I mean, because there's always what if the Steelers are blowing a team out and they, then let Russ, sit and put in Justin. Justin shows flashes, or Russ goes out for a game, with an ankle injury. Justin gets the shine. He might get a contract with another team, and the Steelers keep Russ. I could see that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, I think I think Fields. I mean, a lot of teams need a quarterback, but there's going to be openings next year, and Fields. I mean, you're going to have to pay him pretty healthy, but I don't know.
But a quarterback's a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
But like you said, if Russ doesn't pan out, they do have Fields there.
And I think that's kind of the situation. I think Russ, barring anything drastic, Russ will be there.
Yeah.
As far as drafting the replacement goes, I had Deshaun Watson, but they have so much money tied up, and they're kind of like, oh, we have to make this work.
But he also keeps getting injured.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, that's the Browns' own fault for paying that kind of money for Watson while he was going through everything he went through. They just kind of threw the money and was hoping everything would disappear.
Yeah, and I like the fit with Watson on the Browns. Like, I really do,
Mhm.
and I hope it pans out this year. It's frustrating because it'll look good, but then there's injuries, and
Yeah.
so that's frustrating. I could see them drafting this replacement. Not saying that then. Okay, I could see it going a few ways. I could see them drafting his replacement, but he's still there next season as
Yeah.
the starter.
Mhm.
They're just getting ready to bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
I could also see them being like, you know what, this did not work. We're moving on.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to eat some money. Probably have some dead money there, but we're moving on. And then drafting a guy, kind of doing like what the Vikings did, getting in a veteran that's decent and drafting a guy and starting fresh. Um, but I think Watson will play well this season with the Browns.
Yeah.
I do. They have a tough division, tough conference.
Mhm.
But if he gets injured again,
Yeah.
like they have to move on.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you have anybody else that you think?
Okay. Yeah. So you don't like this take because you believe that Jerry Jones loves Dak Prescott, but I'm not sure how much he does love Dak Prescott. I think your point you made a few weeks ago about him being like his guy.
Yeah.
And believing that he chose him, I do get that.
Yeah.
But also, even after him being in the MVP race and having a really good season, there's all this talk about yeah, we're not really committed to him. We might draft his replacement. That's a thing. And with Deion Sanders, he wants his son to go to the Cowboys. That's one of the teams that he wants his son to go to. He talks to Jerry Jones. He talks to people. I would not be surprised at all if Dak's replacement is drafted after the season. Not saying that Dak won't be the starter for the Cowboys next season, but also, I would not be surprised if he's on a new team either. I really wouldn't. I could see that happening. Another quarterback is Baker Mayfield. They did just sign him, and again, I could see him having a decent year, them even making the playoffs. I could see it happening, but them still being like, okay, we do need to start preparing for the future, and giving Baker a 2-year contract, or however many years that will be left on his contract, and then drafting his replacement, and then after next season, he's gone. Jared Goff. Now, this one is more out there because the Lions are looking really good, but I'm also someone who's not very high on Jared Goff. Yeah. I could see them getting ready to build for the future without him, kind of doing what the Packers did, and having 2 or 3 years that their quarterback sits.
I don't know. They talk so highly of Goff.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're okay with him, but again, someone I'm not super high on. Obviously he did the job last year. Mm-hmm. Almost got them to the Super Bowl. But I don't know. They could draft a replacement, but I think Goff is going to be there for a little bit at least.
Yeah. But I could still see them starting with all three of those quarterbacks starting to be ready to wean off of them.
Yeah. The last one, I guess, the retire tier, I guess. Matthew Stafford, he has a Super Bowl. He has nothing left to prove. I think he left Detroit. He got his ring. I think he's fairly content with his career. And if he doesn't do great this year, and the Rams don't have Aaron Donald anymore. They're starting to kind of try a new leaf, I guess.
Yeah.
I think he could retire after this year.
I could see him retiring after this year. I could see it kind of being the kind of thing where he has a good season, and he's like, you know what? I've had my fill on football. I had a good season. Let's go out, kind of on top.
Yeah.
I could also see it being the kind of thing where they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
They maybe make the playoffs as a wild card, don't win a playoff game. It's kind of rough, a rough season. And then being like, hey, if you come back, we'll stick with you, but also, feel free to retire. That kind of situation.
Not push him out the door to open it for him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think
I'm not begging him to come
right.
back.
I do think that if it's a situation where they're like, hey, you're at the end of your career, but how would you feel if we drafted the replacement and Stafford was there just for a year to mentor him and just kind of guide him through it? I don't think that's the worst thing.
I do think that both sides will go about it respectfully.
Yeah.
Which is great. The other quarterback that we have on the list is
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's old. He's coming off an Achilles injury, which is a tough one to come off of. He's not exactly young. I don't think he will retire, but again, you said if he has another injury,
I don't know. Those 4 snaps look pretty promising.
right? But I think he has a lot to prove. I would say himself, he has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Just wanting to prove that he still has it. But if you and that's obviously you don't wish injury to anybody, but if it's like if he gets hurt again, do these conversations come up?
I'm not sure if Rogers is somebody who doesn't live with regrets or if he just doesn't admit what he regrets.
Yeah.
But I think he could totally look back on him moving from the Packers to the Jets and regret it. Like, I don't think he'd ever admit it, but I could see him regretting it, especially if he doesn't have a good season this year. Because even though there was some tension when he left, and fans were kind of mixed about him because they loved him on the field, but they were kind of tired of the drama that followed him. In the end, everyone would have loved him, and if he retired, he retires as Packer, and he comes back for a game, and he's getting cheered. But now that he went to the Jets, and he kind of left with like a little attitude, I guess. He's not beloved by the Packers. Like he really isn't like open arms by all the Packer fans anymore, especially with Jordan doing well.
Yeah.
And I think he literally needs to go and like have a really good year because they invested in Rodgers.
Yeah.
They're like, this is our guy, which probably wasn't smart because he's old.
Yeah.
And now he's coming off, like you said, a serious injury. He needs to go and like play really well.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, or if he gets injured again, like he has to retire. Like they can't just commit to him just because of his name, of who he was.
I don't know. I think he's got a very big ego, very big personality, just in general. But I think that's another reason he went to the Jets because of the New York media market. He can handle it. Let's be honest. He's okay with being controversial and
he's okay with creating headlines.
Exactly. But I think what you said with the Packers, I think it's more so like the ownership was ready to move on, and some fans do still respect him, and he brought us to Super Bowl, so you can't obviously hate him.
A while ago.
Yeah, but it's not the whole Favre situation where it's like, oh, I retired. I don't want to retire anymore. I want my job back. Oh, you moved on. I'm gonna go to a division rival.
But he is following that Favre cycle of going to the Jets, and then he could go to the Vikings. He could reunite with Aaron Jones. I'm just saying. You never know.
Yeah, but I don't think. I think he's gonna have a couple years with the Jets, and then at most, I should say. I don't know, but I just the way he carries himself and how he goes about his business and what he's talked about. He doesn't like to be wrong, so he would rather play mediocre for a few years than say, "Oh, I was wrong. I'm gonna retire."
Probably, it's kind of tough because I think he always has wanted to have that Peyton Manning type of riding off into the sunset. So, like, I'm going to go win a Super Bowl, and I'll retire, and it'll be great, and I'll be, talked about, high, remembered greatly, whatever. But right now, he's known as one of the disappointing, underachieving quarterbacks that we've ever seen play because he has all this talent and one ring to show for it early in his career. Like, truly. Yeah. And I think because of his ego, like you said, I think he's going to keep trying for that sunset kind of retirement, and he won't get it, and then it's just gonna get ugly because he'll have to either show that he was wrong and retire, or the Jets are gonna move on from him, and then it'll be like, are you going to another team, or I just see it getting rough for him.
I think it could. I don't know, but in Green Bay, it was such a weird I would say last couple years. I mean, he won. It was like you draft Love, and then he wins 2 MVPs, and you're like, it's just, it's like you want to try Love, but you can't move on from an MVP, really. So I think once you start to show signs of I'm not. I mean, not to be what I do have a lot of respect for Rodgers. Obviously, he's not quarterback for Packers, so I don't really care. But he moved on, and I think it was more respectful than Favre. But it was still not. He always says an average year for him.
Yeah.
Again, he doesn't really have bad years. Let's be honest. Statistically, he doesn't have bad years. His MVP year, he threw 4 interceptions. So, but I think, like you said, having a bad year. What does a bad year look like for him? You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, at this point in his career, a bad year is not making the playoffs because that's what they brought him to the
Yeah.
Jets for, and he went to another team to go prove that he can still win it all. I think, all right, in 2019, his first year with Matt LaFleur, he looked good. Packers looked good. They're like, all right, this is working with a new coach, which was, doubted. 2020.
That was a brutal, like, that was our best, I would say, their best year. Their best opportunity.
Wins the MVP, doesn't win the Super Bowl. You know, I don't want to say they choked, but like you said, they kind of blew a good opportunity. 2021, wins the MVP. Another good year.
Yeah.
Another blown opportunity at home.
Yeah.
Now he's getting this, hey, really good in the regular season, but he keeps not showing up in the playoffs because early in his career, a lot of playoff games that were lost, it was he didn't get the ball again. The defense. Well, you know what? The last couple of years with the Packers, it was the offense. It was him.
Yeah.
You saw him with guys open, and he would go and target his guy in Devontae.
Yeah, I think you saw that he was hesitant to trust the young guys.
Yep.
But I think that's why, at least early on, I think it was against Tampa in the NFC Championship,
Tampa,
they put up 30-some points, I think. So
they still had the opportunities, and he didn't do well. And then in 2022, he did not have a good season. He lost, well, not just him, but he threw a couple interceptions. They lost against the Lions at home with an opportunity to make the playoffs when the Lions had nothing but pride to play for.
Right.
He did not look good that season, as on the field or as a leader in general. He did not look good. Packers move on from him. He goes for the Jets. He plays 4 snaps, and he gets a serious injury. So the last year and last 2 years we've seen from Rodgers are not good, and they are fully staking the fact that they're going to go on a Super Bowl run based on who he used to be a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think he's past that part of it, and I don't see a world where they're not going to win the division. I don't think, barring a miracle. And
you think the Bills will?
Bills, Dolphins, they're there. But I can't express to you how perfect the Packers were in moving on. They couldn't.
No.
Yeah.
They won this.
Yeah, they did. And I think,
The best time to draft a quarterback is when you don't need one, and the Packers did that. They do not care how mad it made Rodgers. It worked out for them, and it's a business.
Yeah.
Maybe the Jets need to do the same. Maybe then he'll go win it.
I don't know. Off an Achilles injury at his age, it's tough.
Lastly, I will throw in there, I could see Derek Carr and Deshaun Watson both just calling it quits after the season if it doesn't go well.
I don't know. Deshaun's got a lot of money on the table.
He does, but I'm just saying, if he gets injured again, I don't know if he's going to risk that. I could see dark horse candidates for retiring. All right, so next week, our podcast is going to be a little bit different. We won't even have a weekly news recap. We're going to do something called Make Your Case segment, and we'll get into that on the next podcast, but it'll be fun. It'll be completely unscripted and a little out there, but I think everyone will enjoy it because it involves every single team, every quarterback, every head coach. Yeah. So, see you next week.
You were hesitant about Rodgers for a while.
Yeah.
That's fine. Again, he's talking about quarterback. I don't care.